Good morning, everybody. 5:46 a.m. on May 11th, Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't had a ton of coffee yet, so I'm still kind of just figuring the world out right now. Okay, it is time for the Ask Me Anything, and as always, got the questions pulled up. I've spent some time kind of penciling down some general thoughts to make sure I don't get too far off track. And we'll dive right in. Hope everybody's morning all around the world is off to a good start. And I know that some other places it's almost night, such as Okinawa. Alright, here we go. Let's dive right in. First most upvoted question came from the BTWB squad. It was from Blake A. Okay. Says, my question is, how do we approach intensity when it comes to working out, or it comes to a workout where movements are involved that we're still quote-unquote perfecting? Okay, so what should you do? You're still perfecting some movement, you're not quite where you want to be yet, and how do you approach the intensity with regards to that workout? So my very short answer would be to worry significantly less about the intensity. Just take that completely off the table as a worry, and just move at a conversational, moderate, comfortable pace, whatever pace you're comfortable with. Don't worry about trying to go fast because the clock's running. Don't worry about trying to go fast because this is CrossFit. Don't worry about trying to go fast because you know what your buddy did the workout in. Throw all of those things 100% out the window and don't move faster than you can move properly. And that same mantra, I would say, should be applied to a novice, intermediate, or advanced level athlete for every single movement and every single loading, every single workout of the rest of their life. Don't move faster than you can move properly. And if you find yourself struggling or not moving well, or you feel your form deteriorate, stop, take a rest, slow down, reduce the weight, do whatever you need to do, because it's just simply not worth it to do the other ones. And so while intensity is such a big piece of CrossFit, I almost want to say that a lot of people should care less about it more frequently and let the intensity build and come. I mean, every Friday for Linchpin, we put out a video entitled Modulating Intensity for the upcoming week's workouts, where we talk about the upcoming week's workouts, then give a plan for them. And it's about modulating intensity because you're not supposed to burn it down every day. That will be something which doesn't treat you well for the long term. And you can get a lot of fitness in by lowering the intensity a little bit. Give yourself that grace, allow yourself to learn, and then on the days that you feel like bringing it, you can go ahead and bring it, but you don't need to do that every day. So short answer, I wouldn't worry about it. Just absolutely slow down. Slow down and you will still be fine. Slow burpees are still burpees. Slow power cleans, and I don't really think that you can slowly open your hip, but I'm just naming movement. Slow functional movements are still functional movements. You build, you get better, and the speed and the load picks up, and you're all good. Next most upvoted question, also from the BTWB squad, is from Eric M. And Eric's question is about 5-finger shoes, or low profile, basically barefoot style shoes. Okay. I know part of the answer is, quote-unquote, do what works for you. But for non-running days, because you need to train up for it, what are your thoughts about using toe shoes, like the Vibram 5-finger shoes for CrossFit, besides the fact that you look like a huge dork? He put that in there, not me. I may be drinking too much of the Born to Run Kool-Aid, but I've been using these shoes for quite some time for all my Olympic lifts and general CrossFit, such as box jumps for etc. And I'm curious whether being flat on your feet with the ability of your toes to spread out is better for mobility and flexibility as it pertains to CrossFit specifically. Okay, so yes, to some degree you will find my answer unsatisfying, because I personally really haven't played with that too much, and since they're obviously that style shoe, like a 5-finger sort of a shoe, is nowhere near as popular as what we'll just call regular shoes. Just not a lot of folks doing that cross my path. And I've only had 1 or 2 people who are good friends who did that. The gentleman that I rode motorcycles around the world with, Ian Wittenberg, who filmed the whole thing, he's not a big shoe guy. He's always wearing about as minimalist of a shoe. He never did the 5 fingers, but he had some pretty out there minimalist shoes that were basically like wearing nothing all the time. And that dude did everything in them, 100% everything, and was just fine, but had built up that tolerance over the course of a lot of years. So, I'm sorry, but I am going to say basically, I would do like a crawl, walk, run, no pun intended, approach with this, where if you are going to start to introduce them slowly into functional movements associated with general CrossFit movements, non-running days, do it as practice before you do it as the real workout for time under load. Do it in the warm-up and see how you feel. Do little practice rounds in them and see how you feel. And if you're feeling good because you built up the tolerance, well, good on you, but I'm almost more curious to hear how it goes after you have a bit of experimentation, because I just don't have enough personal experience with that, nor do I know enough people in a close manner that have given me good information to give you a good sense of that. But I do know we do have several folks in the Linchpin community who wear very similar shoes and seem to do darn near everything in them, so I'm sure it's possible. And by the way, the Born to Run book, fantastic. And if somebody hasn't read Born to Run, I would recommend it. It will get you fired up too. I have to admit, after I read it, I was fired up for a bit. Okay, next most upvoted question from Nikos G. Nikos, where are you, my friend? Here we go. Are sumo deadlift high pulls with a single dumbbell a good alternative for rowing to throw in some variants, for example, for the limited equipment stuff? Personally, I wouldn't do that. I'm not a big fan of the sumo deadlift high pull. I think if you never did a sumo deadlift high pull for the rest of your life, you'd be totally just fine. And while I am quite familiar with what potentially are the positive sides of it to introduce somebody to a particular movement, I get that. I also think with some instruction, you could have somebody hang power cleaning or power cleaning, as well. And I think those are superior movements, quite frankly. So I wouldn't do the sumo deadlift high pull. And with regards to limited equipment option, you've got some dumbbells and things like that. And then replicating things to help you be good on the rower when and if a rower did cross your path, because the limited equipment crew, we assume that they don't have gear like that. They don't have a bike, they don't have a rower. And so if you think about what you're doing regularly for this limited equipment crew, you'd be good to go. But you can do bent over rows with the dumbbells, be it with both hands at once or just one arm bent over rows, fantastic. You want to do something with some hip drive and extension, dumbbell power cleans will be absolutely good to go and have wonderful transference to if you do get yourself in a rower. And then if you think of all the things that occur on the limited equipment side of the house, from running long, short, sprinting, lunging, tuck jumps, like I said, dumbbell deadlifts, dumbbell power cleans, dumbbell rows, all of that stuff is going to have incredible transference to the rower, and so I don't think it'd be shortchanged. But I wouldn't recommend thinking, hey, there's a 500 meter row in a workout, I don't have a rower, I'm going to do 2 minutes of sumo deadlift high pulls with a pair of dumbbells. I personally wouldn't do that. I would rather see somebody run hard and fast and not be shortchanged. Or if you want, throw in some dumbbell power cleans and bent over rows, but we see those things regularly anyway, so you should be good to go. And maybe one day you get a rower. Okay, next most upvoted question. This is from Connor F. Okay, Connor says, if someone is not interested ever, for the rest of their time on the planet, he didn't say that, I added that in for punch. If someone is not interested in ever doing handstand walks or handstand push-ups, what are the substitutions for prescribed and scale variations listed for the workouts? Connor, my friend, great question. And a lot of people fall into that camp of don't want to do handstand walks. They're not comfortable with it. They've got bad shoulders. Handstand push-ups cause them grief and it's out of the question. Some people can do them strict but not kipping, the whole 9 yards. I am the person that you're talking about. With my old terrible shoulders, not from CrossFit, as I've said before, dumb stuff in the military and motorcycle wrecks, overhead is not my friend, handstand walking doesn't happen, handstand push-ups don't happen. So I am a scaling and modification guru on days like that. And fitness can 100% be achieved by just understanding what we're trying to replicate on that day and finding a good scale or modification that fits the bill. So for example, if you look at yesterday's workout, and maybe you're unaware of this on the Linchpin private track for the app. So during yesterday's workout, there was a handstand walk portion. And I took a screenshot of it so I could read it off here. If you go to yesterday's workout or any workout that has, for example, handstand walking in it, and under the workout, there will be this little tab that says instructions. And next to that, there's like a live link that you can tap. It says read more. So tap read more and boom, all the instructions will come down. And under that tab, there's all kinds of modifications for somebody that cannot or does not want to do handstand walking, for example. And we have it from yesterday's, which I think had 25 meters of handstand walking in it. It says handstand walk modifications, and there's a list given of varying degrees of difficulty depending upon where you are in your fitness journey. From a certain number of shoulder taps per meter of handstand walking, there's a wall walk substitution, there's a segment of time to give you to practice handstand walks for every X amount of meters that are in the workout. There's a more aggressive shoulder tap recommendation if you're, at that level yet. There's some around the box rotations in a pike or plank position you can have as well. So there's 5 or 6 different options there that somebody can substitute in if handstand walking is not something that they want to do. And then, talking about that or handstand push-ups, for example. Let's see, I lost my place here. About handstand push-ups, just think about what it is that we're trying to achieve in the workout, and then you can probably find something that fits relatively well. And if handstand push-ups come up in a workout, there's a really good chance that under the wildcard option for the day, like let's say the prescribed option has handstand push-ups in it, there's a good chance that the wildcard option will not have handstand push-ups and will have some sort of going overhead with a barbell or a pair of dumbbells just to replicate a press. A handstand push-up is nothing but a press. It is what it is. And handstand walking, while not necessarily a press, I mean, you're not, fully flexing and extending all your your joints in your shoulder and elbow. You are more stabilizing and then shifting your hands around, but there's a tremendous amount of strength, coordination, agility, all that involved as well, which you may not get all of those wonderful neurological components if you sub out the handstand walk for maybe, let's say, a waiter's walk where you carry with one arm extended a kettlebell, a dumbbell, a plate or something a certain distance. You turn around, you switch arms, you carry it back. Certainly not the exact same as a handstand walk. You're not inverted. The degree of the neurological components isn't as high by a long shot. Maybe you do an overhead carry with a barbell where you lock out a barbell that's a challenging but appropriate weight. You walk a distance down, you walk a distance back so that upper body has that struggle and you feel it just working to keep that barbell locked out overhead as your body's moving forward. Is that exactly the same as a handstand walk? Absolutely not. Is thinking about what the handstand walk is and then trying to replicate it to the best of your abilities of what you're comfortable with and want to do, will you be okay for fitness, for real life? Absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you will be fine. And you should do those modifications free of guilt and feel great about it. And like I said, there's a decent segment of the population that fits into a bit of a middle ground. And with some movements, I'm absolutely there. There can, how to phrase this, if you have the ability to do all the things, then I truly believe that will be the path to you maximizing and optimizing your fitness to the peak possible. You can do handstand walking. It feels good for you. Handstand push-ups feel okay in your neck and back. Maybe you do them strict, but you're getting that pressing and you're getting the challenge of being inverted. Ring muscle-ups treat you well. Some people that ring muscle-ups just don't treat them well. They don't want to do that for their shoulders anymore. Some people, chest-to-bar pull-ups don't treat them well. Just chin-over bar is going to be just fine. You can play this game with a whole bunch of stuff. Snatching, for example. Some people are like, I'm never going to snatch for the rest of my life. Anytime that it comes up, I'm going to clean and jerk. You'll still be just fine clean and jerking. But if you can snatch, and you can overhead squat, and you can handstand walk, etc., etc., etc. Maybe some people can't run because they've got something going on with their knee or calf, so they're always going to bike or row. You'll be fine always biking or rowing. But if you can run, right, you're going to have just more opportunity, more cards on the table to be a very complete, well-rounded, optimized athlete. And if you said, look, no muscle-ups for me, no handstand walking for me, no snatching for me, no handstand push-ups for me, I'm probably forgetting something else, no chest to bar pull-ups for me, toes to bar off the table, whatever. You had this list of movements that you said, I'm not going to do anymore. You're still allowed to do the overwhelming majority of functional movements. You're going to be working out with intensity. You're going to have variance. You're going to be power cleaning. You're going to be back squatting. You're going to be deadlifting. You're going to be getting in upper body pulls. You're going to be doing burpees. You're going to be doing box jumps. You're going to be doing kettlebell swings. Can I still get profoundly, ferociously fit doing that, but not doing all of the movements? 100% yes. 100% yes. And you will be a beast in life. There'll be some things that you can't do, and you'll be totally okay. But there's a big segment of the population that fall into that exact camp that you're talking about. And that's why we have these conversations, and that's why we try to provide as many different options as possible so people can get in great workouts. Okay, next most upvoted one was from Eric CM. Why do I feel like this was? Where is it? Okay, here we go. At Linchpin, we have seen strength being improved in lifts without, doing them constantly. Can the rest of CrossFit domains also be improved indirectly? For example, can we improve running without running? Can we improve coordination or accuracy indirectly? Well, the coordination accuracy, I'm here to tell you that, just back up one question to all those movements that I just said. Every single one of those involves coordination accuracy. So yes. Now, if you start to reduce the complexity of your movement selection, well, then by the very nature of that, you might be reducing coordination demands, agility demands, balance demands. You might be reducing some of those neurological components by design, by intention, if that's what you want to do. Now, you will still be doing complicated movements compared to what most of us did. Like when I grew up just doing classic bodybuilding style workout where I was sitting on a machine, a selectorized machine. I didn't have to brace my midline. I didn't have to have any balance. I just pushed against this machine. It dictated the range of motion. Well, now I'm not on a machine. A deadlift is complicated compared to sitting on a machine. A deadlift requires coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance compared to sitting on a machine. Now, does a deadlift compare to coordination, talking about handstand walking or something else? Well, there's varying degrees. Power cleans have far more of the neurological components than sitting on a machine. So yes, you can still absolutely improve your coordination, accuracy, etc., because we're doing complicated movements. You reduce that selection, you might reduce that as well. But to get to your question, like, can you improve something like running without running? Well, there's a really cool member that chimed in. Let me tap this here, expand her comment. Christine chimed in and said, Eric, I don't post much here. I'm usually lurking in the corners. I won't say this too loudly, but I actually like running. Since being a Linchpin member, I don't run as much as I used to, maybe 3 times a week. But when I do run, I've noticed I can run faster and feel fitter than before. So this programming has helped my running tremendously. I hope that helps you out. So point being, yes, you can get better at some of these things that we don't touch all the time, but I think there's a caveat and there's just a realistic point that has to be addressed there. So for example, I would also say it depends upon what capacity you entered the program with. And I'll give some extreme examples that might help paint a picture. Let's say that you don't have much of a running background at all. You hate running. You find it just disgusting and terrible. And so you avoid it like the plague, and you always have. And now you start to enter CrossFit, right? And we don't run every day in CrossFit. We don't do usually any one movement every day. but you're probably running more than you used to. You're using the same musculature all the time that you will need to be a strong runner. You're improving your conditioning all the time, even if it's not in a quote-unquote run. It could be in the bike, could be in the rower, could be doing Grace, could be doing Cindy. You're getting conditioning in doing Cindy, could be doing burpees. You're doing all of these things that now when you go out and you go for another run, you might feel pretty good and your running's going pretty well and things are improving and you're like, oh, wait, we don't even run all the time. How am I getting better at running? It's the exact same, follow the bouncing ball as to why we don't necessarily deadlift every day, or even every week, yet people's deadlifts keep going up. Because like I've said before, you can deadlift to get better at deadlifting, or you can think about what's the musculature that I have to improve to get my deadlift stronger, from my posterior chain to my midline to my lats to whatever it happens to be, and then think about, okay, that occurs during the deadlift, but that also occurs during 75 other movements that we do, strengthens that exact same musculature. And then a deadlift day comes up again and it goes great. And you're like, wow, we haven't deadlifted in a while. True, but we've done the movement pattern. We've strengthened all of those, the musculature associated with it. So yeah, it went well. That same mindset could be applied to running, for example. But the other side of the coin is, if somebody joined Linchpin and they won the Boston Marathon last year, and they can hold a 5-minute mile for 26.2 miles, but they can't deadlift 100 pounds, and they're going to give up their marathon career to become a CrossFitter, there's a really good chance that if you checked in with that person 1 year later, they would be a more well-rounded athlete and a worse runner, because they were so far to one side. Holding a 5-minute mile for 26 miles, can't deadlift 100 pounds. Let's get them to be more well-rounded, but they're going to have to give up some of that running capacity. I know that's an extreme example, but hopefully it kind of paints a picture as to whether somebody is going to benefit or have it go down a little bit. It just depends upon where they're coming from. And the other example would be true. Somebody joins Linchpin and they're like, hey, it's a nationally ranked powerlifter. I paid for my mortgage as a powerlifter. I have an 800-pound back squat, and if you ask me to run a mile, it's going to take the better part of a day. Okay. Well, there's a good chance that this person, without running all the time, just doing the workouts of the day, will notice that their running is getting significantly better, because as a lifelong powerlifter, they never did that and they're horrifically slow. And there's a good chance that 2 years later, they're not going to have that 800-pound back squat. It's just, it's just a kind of a give and take, and it depends upon where you came from and your background and your capacity and all that stuff there. So, but most of us get a ton of transference to the CrossFit workouts that we do every day, as long as they're intelligently designed and programmed. And that's why you get this spread that you're like, wow, we don't even do this much and it's getting better. So, okay, final most upvoted question is from Kyle M, and this is a good one as well. Kyle, where are you? Sorry. Jill, I see you. When are you going to join the Helmet Club? I'll probably have to succumb to that eventually. Let's see. Kyle M, if we decide to partake in the optional accessory work, what's your recommendation for deciding which option to do? Is there a downside to completing all the accessory options provided for a given day? Okay, I didn't notice that second part of the question. Yes, don't do all of the different accessory options every day. Do not, please. So, to give you an example, this is the accessory work from yesterday. So yesterday we had some overhead going on, we had some handstand walking, things like that. We had some ring muscle ups, some upper body pulling. So the accessory work for the day was some extra juice in those areas. So there was two parts of the accessory work. One was going to be overhead pressing, and the other one was going to be upper body pulling. So there's two parts of the accessory work, and there's usually two optional pieces of accessory work each day. And so his question is, like, for example, for the first one, for the overhead stuff, there was 4 options, okay? So the 4 options to get in some overhead pressing were, you could do Turkish get-ups, you could do shoulder press with a barbell, you could do single arm shoulder press with a dumbbell or a kettlebell, or you could do some handstand descent practice. So all of those are some overhead work, but there was 4 different options. 2 of them were single arm, 1 was double arm with the barbell, and then 1 didn't have a barbell at all. It was just handstand descent practice. So the question is, how do I know which one of those to choose? Because there's 4 options, and should I do all of them? So the answer is no, don't do all of them. You look at something like that that has 4 choices, and then you say, what I would personally say is, if you have the ability to do all 4 of those, okay, they're all within your range of abilities, I would choose the one that's the most outside your comfort zone and will challenge you the most. That's my simplest, most direct answer, if you can do all of them. If there's one that you just can't do for whatever reason, shoulder impingement, something doesn't treat you well, then that's off the table anyway. Just get that out of there. And then from the remaining list, I would play that same game. Okay, I can't do all 4 options, I can only do 3 of those options. Well, out of those 3 options, which one would challenge you the most and get you the most outside your comfort zone? Generally speaking, choose that one. Another way that I would look at it as well is, we do so many things that involve both hands or both legs at once being planted. Both hands on a barbell, both legs squatting, that anytime there's a single joint option, I think single joint options are a great call. So the Turkish get-up, pardon me, the single arm dumbbell shoulder press, things like that, single arm is fantastic. And I would play that same game if it was a lower body day and there was a couple options for the accessory work, and one was a single leg deal, like a Bulgarian split squat or pistols or something like that. I think the unilateral stuff is a great call. And then the second option for that day was some chest to bar pull-ups, but that only had 1 choice. So the first one gave you 4 choices of how you're going to go overhead, and the second one was just 1 particular choice. And the sneakiest and potentially most beautiful and beneficial of all those options that I mentioned is probably the one that will get chosen the least. And that's sad, because people love loading, people love barbells, people love weight. I think the one that most people would probably benefit from the most is that final one from this Turkish get-ups, shoulder press, single arm dumbbell press, and number 3, descent from handstand practice. That's the one, the descent from handstand practice. That's the not sexy one. That's the not flashy one. That's the one that's probably going to be the toughest. That's the one that's probably going to cause the most frustration of you're not making progress as much as you want, and why is this so darn hard to just move my body? That's probably the one out of all of those. That's the treasure chest of adaptation right there. And it's probably the least selected because it's going to be darn hard. So, hopefully that helps. So, yeah, fantastic questions as always. I'm checking out the baby monitor here. You can see my little girl is up and she's moving around a little bit, so it's time for me to go in there and start the morning with her. I wish that she was not up at 6:14 in the morning, but she's in charge, not me. So I'll get myself another cup of coffee and we'll kick the day off. Fantastic questions, everybody. This is a huge part of what we do, right? The workout that's I'm almost got on a tangent. I'm supposed to go get my daughter. But, the workout that's given every day, it's a tremendously accurate recommendation as to what you should do. Put a lot of time, thought, and effort into what happens. Nothing's just randomly chosen any day. But the workout that's put out there, even though it's going to work well for most people, under most circumstances, most of the time, there's a huge number of people following Linchpin, so there's a good chance that you see it and you're like, oh man, handstand walking. Darn it, Pat, why did you do that? No worries. That's why we have these conversations, so that you can understand, think about what the intent's supposed to be for that part of the workout, and then you can know that you are authorized to swap out that if need be and put in some movements that fit really well for you are. Or the workout of the day has handstand push-ups and you're like, darn it, handstand push-ups, why? No worries. There's obviously other options given, but then through these conversations you understand, this is what I can do. I don't have to do handstand push-ups to get fit. It's okay if I swap it out, and I will still be a ferocious beast of fitness. It's going to be good to go. So that's it. Have a great day, and we'll talk later.